Welcome back to another edition of Cape Ann. Today, folks, Heather and I are joined by Erika Brown. She is the publisher and editor of The Cricket, coming our way from her office in Manchester-by-the-Sea. How you doing, Erika? Look at that. Like that calendar looks awfully blank behind you, Erika.
What do you mean a calendar?
Isn't there a whiteboard calendar there?
No, that's a piece of artwork by Sarah.
Oh, that's that. That is nice, actually. When you see
Sarah
that close.
Brodier, local artist. Amazing.
Okay, so a lot going on by the sea, Erika. Right off the bat, what about the latest on the parking study regarding certain construction sites?
Yeah, they've been talking about this for years, actually. There's two things going on: parking study, and then a bunch of projects that are going on around town in Manchester. The parking study has been talked about forever. Parking and the idea of parking has always been an issue with regard to downtown business and whether or not they do well. It had to do with outdoor dining. I mean, it's pretty much part and parcel with anything that is happening with downtown businesses anywhere in any town, and Manchester is right there. So the town got a grant to do a parking study with MAPC, and it kicked off last week. So I believe that Sue Brown, the town planner, and the consultants, and Sue Croft have got a baseline on the parking study, and then what they're going to do is go back and look at parking again, and that way they have a benchmark on parking, because amazingly enough, people want to know how much parking is there, and that's a question mark. So they're going to figure that out, and that's sort of the beginning of that march of being able to kind of go towards doing things, planning around doing things that are going to be supportive of businesses downtown. It's a really important thing. So there you go. The construction stuff you asked about too,
yeah.
That's also going on. We're about to have a crazy summer on School Street. I have to say, my husband, School Street's always, which is like one of the main drags in Manchester. A big joke in our house for the last 30 years has been, I'm on School Street. That's code for he just left Boston and maybe he'll be home in an hour and a half. Gotcha. I'm right around the corner. Anyway, but School Street, which is a pretty main kind of thing in town, is about to get disrupted with the water main is about to be kind of upgraded with this kind of, it's like, as a matter of fact, Heather, you're going to know this. It's like an angioplasty. It's like an angioplasty for water mains, where they.
Wow. Yeah. Not because I've had a heart attack, but.
Well, these old, pipes and water mains that go back, hundreds of years in many cases. They have these mineral deposits that go on the inside of them, and so they really break down in terms of just being able to operate properly. And Chuck Dam has been doing this stuff with Nate DeRosiers over at the DPW in Manchester. And the technology is that they can go into the pipes, roto-rooter them, clear them out, and then blast through a new lining from the inside and create a new pipe.
That's just what they do in the cath lab at Salem Hospital.
Exactly. Exactly. It's amazing. So that's what they're doing this summer, and it's going to be the whole way from the Essex County Club all the way downtown. So it's going to be a lot of disruption. And then the other thing, we have spoken about this a lot, the construction of the new dock system is complete at Tux Point. Do you remember last year when there was all these complaints because you had to take a dinghy out to the dinghy dock? Yep. And it was on a pulley system where you had to pull yourself out one at a time? Well, not anymore. Now they have an ADA compliant new thing that was done on time and on budget by a contractor up in Maine who came down to do it. They delivered the docks, and now they're in. And at the same time, they were also able to do something that's kind of important, which is fortify the pilings underneath the rotunda, which is out in the water. Yeah. And that's actually kind of important. And that was actually done. That's the first part of something that's literally in a couple of years going to be much bigger. And that's like a $5 million project to raise the entire rotunda as it's renovated. And because of the timing of doing it now, the Army Corps of Engineers, which will play into this, requires that it gets raised by 7 feet, which is going to be expensive because you have to make your projects compliant. Any project anywhere on the water will have to be compliant with a 50-year tide. So that's why a 50-year event, flooding event. So that's why that's going up. So there you go.
Yeah.
All things Manchester construction.
Yeah. Well, and Yeah, and just some other quick hits, Erika, too. You talked briefly about a 40B extension.
Oh yeah, there was a 40B extension, but Jeff Pope, I think you're going to have him on probably next week, I would
Yeah.
imagine, right? Because he was there. I was not in the meeting. There was an extension to July from June because some tests and reports aren't completed. So
Gotcha.
Mike Cronin from the Gloucester Times did cover this story. So, yeah, so that's been out, but
Yep.
we look forward to it. Yeah.
Okay, so other news that just came to us within the last day or two is that the special town meeting that we thought was going to happen in June is not.
Yeah, that came in last week with last week's Board of Selectmen. And I got to tell you, that's kind of a surprise because Becky Jakes, the chairman of the Select Board, had written in the week before, and we covered in the paper everything about the fact that they were about to meet at their next meeting, and they were going to essentially bump the special town meeting, which was scheduled for the 11th. And they were going to bump it to later in the month of June. And instead, they kind of did an about face, and now they're going to take up all these issues in the fall. Now, if you remember, there's a lot of zoning things that are in there. It's really complicated, and they just wanted to give it the time to, I guess, do it right and do it everything right with recodification. And they're just going to roll it into the fall town meeting, the annual town meeting.
Right.
I don't know, by the way, no word as to whether it will still be a special town meeting. Even though you have something during the fall when it's fall town meeting season, annual town meeting season, that doesn't mean you can't have a special town meeting. So there, that can be the case.
Gotcha.
So I have a little question. So Erika, I realize that you're not up on this because you've been so busy this week with your sons graduating and everything, but does this push to the fall mean the selectmen and the can be working on these zoning issues, educating the public more, or do they just feel as if they're not ready to vote on it? What?
No, it's very much that you can take the time, and it wouldn't be the select board, it would be the planning board. The planning board has had a lot of public meetings, and yet as we've gotten closer to this special town meeting, there's been a lot of people that have said, we don't know enough. We don't know enough, which is, let's face it, a typical tactic of people who want to say no. The translated to no is, we need to study this. We need to think about it. That's another version of kicking the can down the road. Now, the truth is, more time to explain about why these changes are being made are actually quite important. And they're going to take advantage of that. They're going to over communicate, I would imagine, and really answer people's questions, because even though they've communicated a lot, they will still get questions about accessory dwelling units where they say, well, can't we do that now anyway? Like, what's the difference and why should we change anything? It's good enough the way it is. And the truth is, you don't have accessory dwelling units by right, and you actually can't even apply for it unless you comply to a very rigid set of guidelines. It's very, very hard to even ask. Mm-hmm. So, and that's actually just the truth. That's the way it is. It is a special permit, but only certain people can apply for the special permit. And yet you still get people who are saying, oh, well, isn't it good the way it is? It's pretty open now. And by the way, what the problem of that is, that actually was brought up by a member of the planning board. I'm not going to mention who they were, but you're like, wait a minute, haven't you been doing this for 3 years or 2 years? But in any case, so that was a long way to answer your question, but I think that's exactly what it is. They will take the time to, over communicate and really be clear and engage the public even more, even though that's not why it was postponed till the fall. And in other words, it wasn't postponed because they weren't doing a good job in communicating. They've been pretty good.
Right.
Okay. And by that, the planning board, not the select board.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. But the select board decided the timing of the meeting, right?
Yeah, it was their meeting. They decided to move it to the fall. I mean, this thing has been moved a couple times because of COVID-related things. So another 6 months, maybe that really, it's not, right now it's a matter of degrees. Mm-hmm. And by the way, for the record, I didn't have 2 graduations. I've had 3 graduations in the last 10 days. I have my daughter graduating from college and 2 boys graduating from high school.
Yikes. Well, speaking of which, one of the things we love about the cricket are the pictorials. We have the great spreads, especially the all color spreads. And so let's talk about graduation.
Graduation was really fun. And not only because I was a mom, it's one of my favorite things to go to. every year and photograph along with Paul Clark, our assistant editor, who always, because he worked in the school system for more than, more than a decade, actually almost two, I think. So he knew all the kids and he really enjoys it, but I go there anyway too. But this year was really awesome because it was a great big class, 126 kids, which is much bigger than average. It was a little bit of a baby boom back in the day. And it was really just fun to go to. They were really great. Lucas Sean was the valedictorian, and he gave a speech that was really interesting. He interviewed 100% of the students in his class. And then he did a speech imagining the future where he ran into every one of them and what they were doing. He named 100% of the class in his speech, and he came up with what they were doing in the future. Wow. In this kind of fantasy about him waking up as a neurosurgeon in New York City sometime in the future. It was very sweet. And by the way, what was nice about it is I loved listening, visiting his brain, the brain of a young person who's so optimistic about the future. It's so refreshing.
Yes. Now I'll grab a shovel and get miserable like the rest of us. So,
there was nobody hating their job. There was nobody had a divorce. Complete, you know what I mean? It was just lovely. It was, what I like to say is, it was a bubble of lovely.
Very nice.
Well, congratulations to all your children.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to the whole class. It's a really wonderful class. They did a great job, and I can't wait till next year and that class.
There you have it. And very quickly, Erika, tonight the Greater Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce celebrates a small business in Manchester as part of their weekly awards.
Yep. My husband's cousin Jim Brown is of Coldwell Banker is going to be feted as the Small Business Person of the Year in Manchester, but that's actually just one of five. They've been to Rockport, they've been to Ipswich, Essex was late last week, and then of course Gloucester. But the big thing is this Friday at the Castle Manor Inn. There's a luncheon that they do where they actually celebrate all of them together, and that's a really fun thing too. Bruce Tarr comes out, and it's a lot of fanfare, and it's really lovely. It's a nice event. I've been to it maybe 3 or 4 times. Really nice. So cool. Congratulations to all those guys. They've done a great job.
Yeah. So. I might see you there. All right. Great stuff as always, Erika. That's a packed week. So we'll be sure to tune in with you next week and see what else is going on in your neck of the woods. And we will see you in 7 days' time.
I'll be rested.
There you go, folks. Check out our podcast, folks. Cape Ann Today, wherever you get a podcast.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.